What's going on, YouTube? Culturedog Sam Hatch back with another video. We're going to do some more Blu-ray Spotlight reviews today. And it is actually funny because I've been waiting about 10 minutes at least for a garbage truck outside to shut up so I can get on with filming my video. And that really kind of ties in thematically with what I'm about to talk about. So if it does return, maybe I should just leave it and I'll kind of add some verisimilitude to this video. Ooh, a $10 word. Anyways, we're going to talk about a film today that is, largely hailed as one of the most insightful motion picture features about the ins and outs of the fashion industry, and really giving you a gritty, realistic take on what that means and what that entails. And of course, I'm talking about the 1987 Rod Amatow classic, the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Yeah, this is happening. On Blu-ray, nonetheless. Yeah, Scream Factory was nice enough to send me a review copy, and review it I did. So we're going to talk about this and chat about the amazing cinematic heritage of this feature and see what's going on with this release in particular. You can't talk about the Garbage Pail Kids movie without talking a little bit about where it came from. And even though the script of the film does a really poor job at explaining where these kids come from, luckily we have a little bit more information in the real world. And people of my generation were largely tormented in the early 80s by Christmas blockbuster toys. Teddy Ruxpin, you've probably run across maybe in a Goodwill, sitting there with his mouth clenched shut because some kid broke it. Was a talking teddy bear that would help you learn and all that stuff. But the one super mega fad that just created the whole idea, really, of the Christmas killer app that's parodied in films like Jingle All the Way. Before the Furbies, before the Tickle Me Elmos, there were the Cabbage Patch Kids. And yeah, Cabbage Patch Kids were these strange little babies that were sprouted from cabbages. And then you as a child had an opportunity to adopt them. And parents would essentially murder each other over those things in order to have them for their kids. And it really created that whole concept of, if you didn't get this thing for your kid, then you were a poor parent. So corporations were able to guilt parents into purchasing the products, not because they actually wanted to, but because it was a keeping up with the Joneses kind of situation. So needless to say, after a short amount of time, plenty of us had a butt full of Cabbage Patch Kids. People were bringing them to school and showing them off, and you just couldn't escape the little buggers. So it was with much rejoicing that Topps were a company that had been around forever and had been manufacturing baseball cards. They released a line parodying a line of stickers, collectible stickers in baseball card form, parodying the Cabbage Patch Kids, called the Garbage Pail Kids. And yeah, Topps, as a kid in the 70s, I was encountering all their Star Wars trading cards, and they did a lot of sports trading cards, etc. And all it was a little pack of cards, and you never knew what you were going to get. And it would always come with an incredibly dried up brick-like piece of bubble gum, and it was always covered in some sort of dusty residue. And eventually, once you cracked it in half and slammed it in your jaw, eventually it would kind of soften. But that was just the throwaway part. The real part was collecting all the cards, and I would obviously collect all the Star Wars cards and everything. But one of the great kind of series that I fell in love with in the late 70s and early 80s were the Wacky Packies, or Wacky Packs, or Wacky Packages. They were very Mad Magazine-esque takes on consumer products, and just really tearing them apart, and really edgy stuff. So that kind of led to the Garbage Pail Kids. It was like, what if the Wacky Packages people had created the Cabbage Patch Kids? And that's how the Garbage Pail Kids came about. So they were highly disgusting. There was no holds barred, and you'll vomit, snot, everything, left and right. And even though they were manufactured by a big bubblegum trading card company, it was counterculture. Art Spiegelman, who would won a Pulitzer for Mouse, the graphic novel, which I recommend checking out if you have not read that. He was one of the co-creators of the series and had worked on Wacky Packages before too. So it was cool. It was actual legitimate counterculture. So it turned into a bit of a fad. I actually wrote in for a uncut sheet of stickers, and I think I still have it rolled up in my closet somewhere. I'd dig it out, but I think it might take a little bit of time. So in a future video, maybe I'll show you that. But yeah, I totally was into the Garbage Pail Kids. So it became one of those things where it was mainstream, it hit, it was a zeitgeist moment where everyone was just sick of these cute little Cabbage Patch Kids, and let's just have them vomit and blow up and do all sorts of horrible things. So and it was like this nuclear age Edward Gorey situation, and it was cool. So eventually, of course, a movie has to be made because the 80s was the period of lots of toys, tying in with television shows, etc. So if you have something you can market, you're going to have to turn it into a movie if it isn't one already. So the Garbage Pail Kids movie was unveiled in the later 80s. Yes, the Garbage Pail Kids movie, the movie everyone was clamoring for, came out, directed by Rod Amato, and he had done a lot of TV work. Dukes of Hazzard, etc., and starring Katie Barberi and Mackenzie Astin, who is the son of Patty Duke and John Astin, and half brother of Sean Astin of Lord of the Rings fame and Goonies fame. So clearly that was hey, got another Astin kid. Let's throw him in this movie, because the Garbage Pail Kids movie is definitely wearing the Spielberg template of the 80s on its sleeve, and not just Spielberg but Chris Columbus and Joe Dante and everything in that kind of camp. This film wants to achieve that, and Anthony Newley, who is star of stage and screen and a singer himself, and I've listened to his take on the Goldfinger song numerous times on one of my James Bond collection CDs. Stars as well as Captain Manzini, the owner of this strange antique shop, and Mackenzie Astin plays Dodger, this kid who spends most of his time in the antique shop with the magical elderly man who purports to be a magician of sorts. Everything about this film is just ill-defined and ill-scripted. It starts off with this credit sequence showing apparently a garbage pail spaceship entering the orbit of the Earth, and I guess that's how these creatures eventually arrive on Earth, and for some reason their garbage can is stashed in this antique shop. So it's really like this unholy combination of Gremlins, the Never-Ending Story, and Needful Things. And it definitely is trying to win everybody over with the cute characters and everything like that, despite the fact that these aren't cute characters. And the can doesn't have all of the characters that you've seen from the trading card. So there's a select few, including Alligator, who is an alligator with a Hawaiian shirt. And there's Greaser Greg and Valerie Vomit and Messy Tessie, who is snot prone. Foul Phil, who's just a stinky baby, and Windy Winston, who looks like J.J. Jackson from MTV early days, but he farts a lot. That's his thing. And apparently Anthony Newley, his character Captain Manzini, is like this very kind of, hey kids, let's all do great together, and one of those kind of surrogate grandfather types. But I guess his idea of helping these kids out is keeping them imprisoned for all eternity inside this garbage can. So there's a lot of mixed messages here. Like, don't let that, open that Pandora's box of a garbage can. Don't let these creatures out. But once they're out, he's like, hey, we should all work together and do our chores and stuff like that. I'm like, well, why are you imprisoning them? I don't know. So anyways, the bulk of the story is based on Dodger and his inability to not get beaten up by a local gang of 4 people, 2 women and 2 men, led by Juice, played by Ron McLaughlin, And there's also Blythe, the big tough girl, played by Marjorie Grau. And then Tangerine is Katie Barberi's character. And they just see Dodger and they want to take his lunch money. And usually their life is revolved around pushing him into things that are muddy and gross. So they push him into like a little stream early on in the film. They take his money. They drag him into the sewers in one part and pour open sewage on his face, because that's apparently what they do. And meanwhile, Tangerine is this girl who's got her sights set on fashion stardom, and she cobbles together her own fashions and goes out to these sketchy clubs in the middle of the night. And then everybody just rushes out of the club and they pick up all her wares from the hood of her car, basically. So Dodger meets these new outcast friends who are supposed to be malicious yet benevolent, depending on the scene. And they, these kind of magical little gremlins are capable of just about anything, apparently. So they're like, well, what's this girl you want to get it on with? What's she like and what's she into? And he's like, fashion. So they're like, dude, we can, of course, create fashion because we're kids with snot on our hands and stuff. So the Garbage Pail Kids work overtime at making Michael Jackson-esque outfits, which eventually leads to Dodger being able to infiltrate Tangerine's world and then get closer to danger, because Juice and his guys are always lurking around the corner. And if this sounds coherent, trust me, it isn't at all. There's a subplot eventually coming up about the state home for the ugly, where apparently creatures that are too ugly are penned up and executed. Even that concept is just thrown away. Inside the state home for the ugly, there's these pens for people that are too ugly and too skinny and too bald and too fat. So like Abraham Lincoln and Gandhi and Santa Claus are held up in there. It really doesn't make any sense. And there's a lot of comedy, hijinks around the gross out humor. Farting, vomiting, belching, snot. I still don't know how these characters can create all of these garments and then not have them covered in vomit and snot. But yeah, I guess that's the magical part of the story. And there's these bits, and every once in a while where they learn from each other. They sing a song about how they can, conquer anything and team up and get anything done. But yeah, so there's this horrible subplot involving apparently other Garbage Pail Kids that have landed on Earth and have been sent to the state home for the ugly. That subplot appears and then disappears and then reappears and disappears. And it eventually culminates in a big fight at a fashion show. And there's a very Gremlins-esque scene where the Garbage Pail Kids escape into the night and they go hang out at the bar. And of course they befriend bikers and then go harass a local cinema when theater goers are watching Three Stooges films. So there's a lot of antics within, and it certainly thinks it's the Gremlins number of times, but it really is a hot mess. And I just love the whole kind of fashion subtext of it. And there's some great gaffes. There's a scene where the fight is going on at the fashion show, and Mackenzie Astin is like 13 years old when they're filming this. And there's a scene where he gets pushed into a rack of clothing and he comes back out and comes at Juice, the villain. And all of a sudden he turns from this 13-year-old kid into this fully grown, like, built adult. And they don't even attempt to hide it. It's just like, wait, how the hell did he just grow 2.5 feet in a second? So there's a lot of great stuff in there. It does feature, notably, the animatronics and sculpts of John Carl Buechler, who was originally tapped to helm this project. And he really wanted to come at it like it should have been, as real counterculture. And as a kind of more, Killer Clowns from Outer Space type feature, where these creatures, had a lot of personality and there was a lot of comedy involved, but they were also vicious and they would kill people and stuff like that. So this film is really trying to capture mid-'80s sub-Spielbergian, family-friendly fare. And really thought, between that tactic and then having a brand name attached to the film already was going to equal box office gold. Sadly, it did not. And while the film has been available on home video, leave it to Scream Factory to unveil the collector's edition Blu-ray, the Garbage Pail Kids movie. MGM has the rights to it now, and they licensed rights to Scream Factory, who have put together a special feature-laden disc. And it does have the collector's edition slipcase with some new artwork from Nathan Thomas Milliner, and it has the reversible inner artwork. I actually like the original 80s cover, the poster art, a little bit more. I mean, the Milliner piece is meant to evoke the actual look of the cards, but the inner piece has that, really captures that 80s poster artwork. So how's it look? Well, it has that kind of washed out overall vibe like a lot of 80s film product had. I don't know if they were just using too much fog in the set or after whatever film stock they were using, but if you watch Miami Vice on DVD or something, it has that kind of veiled, washed out look where whites are kind of like a kind of faded beige-ish color instead of popping whites. So there's some of that at play when it starts up and you see the Atlantic Entertainment Group intro. I mean, it looks like you're watching VHS. And there's a lot of dirt and everything on the print. But, I mean, detail-wise, it's pretty good. And there's some scenes that seem a little crushed or a little bit dark overall. But then some other scenes are a little bit more vibrant. And there is a lot of color in the film. There's a lot of 80s fashion going on. So while sometimes it may be a little bit more muted than originally intended or shot, it's nonetheless pretty colorful overall. So there's going to be some hair and stuff like that and occasional artifacts, but I didn't see any horrible edge enhancement artifacting or crazy grain problems or anything like that. It looks as good as you can expect from a movie called The Garbage Pail Kids movie from 1987. It was pretty low budget, and it certainly looked that way, and yeah, it has served fine by this 1080p transfer. And if you are a fan of the movie, you're definitely going to want to pick it up for sure, especially because of the special features, which we'll get to in a minute. The audio is DTS HD master audio, but it's just mono because there wasn't a lot of THX surround sound going on in the creation of this film. And it's got a pretty dated soundtrack with very 80s synth-heavy material. There is some music in the film. Michael Lloyd's tune, "You Can Be a Garbage Pail Kid," is surprisingly catchy. Some of the music from the nightclub when Tangerine goes to sell her wares is pretty horrible. But yeah, so there's not directionality or any of that kind of stuff. So, but again, you just want this film to be right in front of you, and that's what you get. Sounds fine. It wasn't shrill or anything like that, and I didn't hear any distortion from the audio. Yeah, 80s. And of course, one of the coolest things ever about the releases that Scream Factory and Shout Factory put out is that they're not afraid to give collector's edition treatment and special features treatment to films that are largely regarded as turkeys. This is up there in a lot of people's book with Manos Hands of Fate as one of the worst films ever, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't catch up with some of the people that made the film and delve into some special features, because there's always some interesting stories to tell. It's like the VH1 Behind the Music scenario, where even if you didn't like the band, you're gonna watch the show anyways because the tale of the band is always really interesting. And behind the scenes stuff is always fascinating, even if it's a failure on the level of Manos Hands of Fate, where nobody is talented really, from the filmmakers to the actors, etc. It's still that tale of amazing failure and Ed Wood-esque ambition. Whereas you have a film that's a little bit more Hollywood like this, that had a low budget but a bit of a budget, and you have people that are actually talented actors involved. That makes it equally entertainment, but on a little bit of a different level. It's the people that are involved in the film aren't necessarily thinking that they're making this cinematic turkey. And Mackenzie Aston just was a fan of the cards and everything and jumped into this project wholehearted. And then later his father found out and said, "Oh, let's get you out of this sucker." But it was a job and people took it seriously, and that's cool. So you got to feel for that in special features. There's no commentary track, and sadly they don't get director Rod Amatow involved. I'm assuming he's still out there and about. Obviously, with some projects, the people that are missing are stick out more than the people that they do get. And of course, director Rod Amatow's not involved here, nor is Phil Fondacaro, who is Greaser Greg in the film. And everyone talking in these special features lets you know that he was the key in getting everybody together and creating pretty much the cast to portray the garbage gang in the film. But sadly, Phil's not involved in these special features. But there is like a half-hour long bit with Mackenzie Aston, which is pretty hilarious and is great. He's just got a great attitude about the film, and spills some interesting things. Like apparently he and Katie Barberi were dating around the time the film started, because that's one of the strange aspects of the film, is that he's this little kid, 13-year-old, and is basically like looking to go out with this grown woman, and so that's a really strange kind of dynamic. But apparently it was real. Yeah, he's just a delight to listen to. His piece is really interesting. There's also an Effects of Garbage Pail Kids movie piece with John Carl Buechler talking about his ideas for the film. It's a really great little featurette because it mentions how he wanted to pitch the film, how he thought the film should be seen, and ultimately how the studio went with it, and how, despite the fact that he pulled off some work that he was proud of, like the end product should have been a little bit more visceral and have some more teeth to it. And the creature effects for the Garbage Pail Kids are effective, and they do look remarkably like the drawings from the Topps card series, sticker series. But they're not very well articulated. I mean, they do have some eye motion, etc. Their mouths are pretty clunky. And both John Carl Buechler and Gino Crignelli, as makeup effects artist, in this documentary, they both mention that that they could only go so far with the amount of budget they had, and so it was cool. Yeah, they are proud of what they were able to pull off for the money available. Then there's also a short 6-minute interview with first AD Thomas A. Irvine, who again is all business essentially. Talks about the making of the film, and is impressed at the fact that there's a cult audience out there for it. So it was cool, and he's thankful for the ability to learn some of his craft on this film, which ended up getting him hired on Cabin Boy, and he's just kind of bemused by being involved in so many cult movies like that and how they keep having legs. Then there's a piece called The Kids Aren't All Right, and it's supposed to be with the actors portraying the Garbage Pail Kids, but it's only two. It's Kevin Thompson, who played Alligator, and Arturo Gil, who played Wendy Winston. So everyone else is missing, but they get a lot of coverage from these interviews. They talk about all their fellow actors and actresses, and Phil Fondacaro's mentioned a lot, of course. And it was also interesting talking with Kevin Thompson about how he also did the voice for Alligator, and also Arturo did the voice for Wendy Winston, and not all the actors got to voice their own characters. Phil Fondacaro didn't even get to voice Greaser Greg. So it was cool, like hearing them talk about how it was a big deal to get a union job, and how you'd be an idiot to turn down this project, but then how difficult it was running around in hot sets with these giant prosthetic heads, etc. And it was cool. It was really illuminating stuff. And there's also a theatrical trailer thrown on there for good measure. So really, I mean, more special features than you could ever imagine being on a Garbage Pail Kids release. And that's one of the coolest things ever, is people complain about when the Criterion Collection releases a title that's a Michael Bay title, and they're just so angered by it. But no, I say game on. I say the worse the film, the more special features it should have. Not just critical darlings are deserving of this kind of treatment. So I'm totally stoked that there's a collector's edition of the Garbage Pail Kids movie. It is a hot mess, and it is 97 minutes, something like that. Yeah, 97 minutes. It feels like longer than Gods and Generals. It is interminably long. It is tough to get through because there really is no story, and there's really no structure to the story. It's just very haphazard scenes. So again, that it's the kind of thing that kids will like, because you just kind of roll with the scene and the characters, and they start farting and you laugh, etc. The comedy is not really that that good either, nor any of the kind of ad-libs or anything like that. And there's the very one-note nature to all the characters. Alligator just always wants to eat people's toes. So by the 30,000th time you hear, like, I'm going to eat your toes, you're like, okay, just eat them. Just eat my toes. let's get this over with. So yeah, it is a tough flick to sit through. But then again, if you're a fan, you're gonna love this thing, because I mean it's given the love it doesn't deserve, which is great. That's what I like to see in my home video releases. I want to see a crappy movie that nobody can love, which is, you know, kind of what this film is about. These little creatures that nobody can love being given love by John Astin's son. And fashion. It's got fashion, man. What's not to dig? So yeah, tread carefully, but if you know what you're getting into, you're gonna have a good time. It's serviced as well as can be imagined, and yeah, I think if you pre-order it too, you get like a poster and everything, so you can hang it up on your wall and relive the glory days of the mid 80s when the Topps trading card stickers were ruling the day. So yeah, thanks for hanging out, and hopefully you can be a Garbage Pail Kid too. I believe in you. Cheers.